to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphones when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAGPOM public comment process allows for members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you would like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist you with any questions you may have. If you've parked in the garage, a validation stamp is available at the corner. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the MAG ITS committee. Mohammed Musa from City of Apache Junction.
Present.
Thank you. Michael White from as a proxy for Sergeant Craig Martin from Arizona Department of Public Safety.
Present.
Thank you. Susan Anderson from Arizona Department of Transportation. Yanbing Wang from Arizona State University. Ward Stanford from City of Avondale.
What? One? Or two? Oh, really? Oh, Thomas, was that?
Alan Galicia from City of Buckeye.
Present.
Thank you. Alyssa Dahl from City of Chandler.
Good morning.
Thank you. Jonathan Hebert from City of El Mirage.
Present.
Thank you. Kieran Jordan from Federal Highway Administration. Mike Sutton from Town of Gilbert.
Here.
Thank you. Ruben Lopez from City of Glendale. Hugh Bigay from City of Goodyear.
Present.
Thank you. Munir Zaman from City of Maricopa. Joe Cottrell from Maricopa County. Marty Lauber as proxy for Micah Henry from City of Mesa.
Here.
Thank you. Juan Gonzalez from Town of Paradise Valley.
Here.
Thank you. Jody McKenzie from City of Peoria.
Present.
Thank you. Simon Ramos from City of Phoenix. Thank you. Garrett Stanwood from Pinal County Public Works as a proxy for Christopher Wanamaker.
Present.
Thank you. Kevin Pagsolingan. I apologize for pronouncing it if I'm wrong, as a proxy for Julian Rizang from Town of Green Creek.
You did a great job. That was perfect. Thank you. Present.
Thank you. John Savage from City of Scottsdale.
Here. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Albert Garcia from City of Surprise.
Present.
Thank you. Ali Wolosin from City of Tempe. Marty Zeke from Valley Metro.
Present.
I'm revisiting some of the people who joined late. Yanbing Wang from Arizona State University.
Present.
Thank you. Ward Stanford from City of Avondale.
Good morning. Present.
Thank you. Susan Anderson from Arizona Department of Transportation.
Good morning. Present.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone online? Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the MAG ITS committee. This completes the roll call.
Thank you, Sabrani. Moving on to agenda item number 2. Our next item is the call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items, or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience unless the chair requests an exception to this limit. I have received no request to speak for call to the audience. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with the committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online comments for the call to the audience?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the MAG ITS committee. We have received no written comments for the call to the audience.
Thank you. We will move on to agenda item number 3, the MAG Program Manager's Report. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by David Lucas, the MAG Intelligent Transportation Systems Manager. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the ITS committee. So I'd like to begin today's report with a quick update on the RCN. We're currently working on a no-cost service edition for ITS data, and that's going to be with McDOT as the lead applicant. ITS data in this case is going to support various applications, including but not limited to adaptive signal control, ATMS or center to center, ATSPM, CAD, SPAT, V2X, and work zone applications. Some of this we've been doing for some time, but it was not formally supported. So we're taking this opportunity to formalize and expand the use case. MAG staff are preparing for recommended approval by this committee and MAGTAG, the MAG Technology Advisory Group, in May, followed by policy committee approval in June. Provided an update on a couple projects that MAG is leading. One of those is the regional TISMO plan. Yesterday, we held TAG meeting number 5, where the vision, goals, and objectives and program areas report and the data management plan were both discussed in detail. And both of these documents are going to be distributed to the TAG this week, with comments tentatively due on March 20th. For the TSOP, MAG is expanding its use of the INRIX signal analytics platform, finalizing a new contract, expanding coverage from 250 to 350 intersections, and extending the term of the contract through June 30th of 2027. MAG also continues to explore the use of other data platforms to expand our data capabilities and meet the needs of our member agencies. To better support our consultant partners, we are now posting upcoming transportation projects on the MAG website in advance of them being issued as an RFP. You can find the information under the existing RFP/RFQ link on the MAG webpage, where it is listed as upcoming transportation projects. The MAG PM contact information for each project will be listed, so you can reach out to them for details. Wanted to announce that nominations for the 2026 Operations Academy Senior Management Program are now open. This is a total immersion TISMO training program, which now follows a hybrid schedule with a mix of virtual classes and 1 week of in-person instruction. The program is managed by the University of Maryland in partnership with the Eastern Transportation Coalition and the National Operations Center of Excellence. Scholarships are available to cover the tuition expense, and nominations are due May 1st, 2026 at the link shown on the screen. And finally, some upcoming events on the ITS calendar. Later this month, the Arizona IT IMSA Spring Conference will be held once more in Glendale. This summer in June, the IT Mountain District will be holding its annual meeting in Flagstaff. And this fall in October, ITS Arizona will be holding its annual conference. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, David. Moving on to agenda number 4 is the approval of the February 4th meeting minutes. Does any member have any questions regarding the meeting minutes from that meeting? Hearing none. Prior to the approval of the meeting minutes, there's an opportunity for the members of the public to comment. I've received no comments or requests for this item. Staff, have received any online written comments for this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the MAG ITS committee. We have received no online written comments for this agenda item.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve agenda item number 4?
Hello, Juan Gonzalez with the Town of Paradise Valley. I motion that we approve the meeting minutes.
Great. We have a motion from Juan Gonzalez. Do we have a second?
Muhammad Musa, Apache Junction.
Thank you, Mohammed. We have a second from Mohammed. We will have those participating in the meeting online take part in a voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. We need to see the faces of everyone to participate in the voice vote. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Staff will only call on those virtual participants who did not turn on their camera. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote so that staff can count the people's names who are not on. Can I have a voice vote in the room and those online? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are you done with it? We're done with it, right?
Members, please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
Alyssa Dahl, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jody McKenzie, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Alyssa Dahl, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, this concludes the voting process and the motion has passed.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 5, a streamlined approach to signal timing optimization and performance evaluation. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by Zong Tian of University of Nevada, Reno, with a brief introduction by David Lucas, the MAG ITS manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the ITS committee. Dr. Tian had a presentation at the most recent edition in December, I believe it was, in the IT Journal talking about this topic. And given the work that the region has been doing on reassessing the TSOP program that we have in the region, I thought it was a timely discussion to have, especially given that many of you are familiar with the WASING software platform that Dr. Tian has developed. So with that, we wanted to invite him to speak to us today and provide some unique insights that he has on this topic. Dr. Tian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, David, for inviting me to talk to the group. Yeah, I did plan to be there in person, but something happened. I couldn't be there. So I'll be really happy to talk to you about some of my insights about your program and maybe offer some suggestions. The things I'm going to talk about today, include these items. First, we'll briefly discuss your TSOP program. Primarily, what has been done right, what could have been done better. So, in my opinion, and the second, that is important. Is about how do we evaluate the signal timing, particularly coordinate the signal timing on the corridor. I think I only have time to present one case study. How can we quickly do a signal timing, retiming, and then evaluate the performance using automated connect vehicle data trajectories? And then, I have some numbers to show how the TSOP corridors really performing. And finally, I offer something that is quite specific to Arizona that I realized about protect permitted left turn control and phasing sequence. So these are the things, just in a nutshell, these are the things I'm going to try to cover in about like 20, 25 minutes. About TSOP, first, the title, you see my presentation title is about a streamlined approach to signal timing optimization and evaluation. As David has mentioned, there was a paper published in the December issue of ITE Journal. So that was my paper. In the paper, I didn't specifically talk about WASING, but if you read the paper carefully. So that describes everything behind VSync. What's the current state practice? What are the gaps? What are the issues? And how a tool, advanced tool, can address the current gaps in the current practice. Focusing on 4 different things, I call it a mode approach: managing signal timing data, optimization with without traffic volume counts, diagnosing common signal timing issues, and the evaluation of quality of signal timing. For today's presentation, I will be mainly focusing on 2 things: the optimization part and the evaluation. So let's take a look at the TSOAP program. As I mentioned, what I think you have done well and what could have been done better. So the signal timing in the program, signal timing has been done by consulting companies. Most consulting companies, I guess, as required by MAG, they need to show proof of validation using VSync to make sure the timing developed can actually match what is running in the field. So that is really a positive thing. Because in most other places, everything looks good on paper, but when you go to the field, the drive really doesn't work the way as showing in the model. So VSync provides this kind of validation. So that's a positive side. The other thing about the evaluation, so signal retiming, the current practice, we do before after comparison. So the positive side of your evaluation is I see most consulting companies use a third-party independent data source. So in this case, is INRIX, the travel time runs from INRIX. So that's an independent data source, which is very critical. You don't want people just who perform the signal timing and also collect the data and do the evaluation themselves. But the evaluations, I noticed the evaluations were still done by the firms themselves. So this is where I think evaluation should be done by an independent third party. So that's what I would suggest. And also, I do look at some of the report. Seems some consulting firms, they just use the model to run the optimization without much engineering judgment and then implement the timing. So that's maybe potentially one area that could improve. And also the before-after comparison is pretty much comparing the travel time. In the travel time, I always mention, yeah, you can compare if the retiming your performance is improved or not compared to the before, but it does not tell you, can we still do better? So what is the level of quality? In order to provide that answer, so we need something which is called a performance index. So I will just talk briefly into this presentation. And if you look at the report, I don't know if anybody who reviewed the report, if you really finish reading the whole thing, I noticed that there are a lot of printouts from the model, synchro outputs, all those things. I usually pay little attention of those synchro outputs. What I want to see is a true time-space diagram with the trajectories that match the time-space diagram. So I noticed not many project reports have that. So this is just some of my opinions of the TSOAP program. As I mentioned, I'm going to spend some time talking about this performance index. But I know not everybody in this group are really actively working on signal timing, but I do want you to understand, there are 2 trajectories here. Okay, the 2 trajectories showing an actual vehicle driving through the corridor. So in this case, there are 11 signals. You can see the first one here make a short stop, and then a long stop, a pretty long stop, and a short stop, a short stop. So 5 stops total. Travel time is 11.2 minutes. The other one has 3 stops. A travel time is 8.7 minutes. I think everybody can tell the second one is better than the first one. But the trajectory alone or the travel time stop alone doesn't tell me, is this considered good or bad? So this is where we need that performance index. And we have a scoring system. These are all built in vSync. So it's really, I'm really happy to see in Arizona, most agencies have adopted vSync. So this is already built in. Based on this travel time, number of stops, we provide a score. Like the first one is rated C-. The second one is rated A. So if you get a lot of trajectories like the second one, that's a very good signal timing. Probably there's not much you can still do better. But if you get a lot like the first one, that means there's still room to improve. Even the current one may be better than before. So this is why the performance index is important. What I want to show you next is, okay, why these 2 vehicles made these stops. From the trajectory alone, again, we couldn't tell the reason. But if we pull out the signal timing, now you see the true time space diagram. So the green bands, the green going this direction, the blue is the band green progression, we call the progression green band, the green wave going the other direction. Now everything makes sense. You can see this one couldn't catch that green band, that made a stop, and then because there's no green band here, made another stop. Versus the second one, probably this guy ran the yellow, you can tell, barely made through the first one, but there's no way he can go through the this one. So that's the stop where the stops occurred. So the time space diagram with the trajectories, this is what I'm talking about. If I see this, then I know why those stops occurred. I can also tell the signal timing, and you see there's not a green band. So there's a great potential to improve. Again, here is kind of a visualization. On the left, so I just re-show the trajectory on the time space diagram. On the right is the mobile tool, where you take this to the field, you drive the corridor, it will tell you whether the timing matches or not, and where you should expect to stop. For example, here you can see because it's out of the band, therefore there's a short stop. So in 2 seconds, it's going to turn green. So turn to green, and here there was supposed to be another stop, but on the side street, there's no vehicle. That's why the green returned earlier. So the next one is already green, so no problem. You should be able to go through. So the next one is already green, so within the green band, you should be able to go through. Now see, this one is out of the band. That's why, in 1 second it's going to turn yellow. Now you made a long stop here. So you have to wait. So you can see the blue is the other direction is going to start first. So the other direction is going to start first, the left turn and through. And then in about 10 seconds, this should turn green, the latest. Okay, now turn green, okay? So you can see there's no green band. That's why there will be another stop. So this is to show at the time space diagram with the trajectory. On the right, I just want to kind of give you an idea how signal coordination work, how to read a time space diagram. So because not everybody in this group really work on signal timing actively. All right, so I'm going to show you just one case, a real case. This arterial is in Orange County, California. So I already talked to David, I mentioned Orange County has about 2,000 signals. Their annual budget on signal timing is $20 million. So not all of them are on signal timing, about, I would say 20% on signal timing, 80% on equipment facility upgrade. But still, that's pretty significant, $20 million per year. So this is one of their arterials in Yorba Linda. So these are the trajectories I mentioned from the automated, we call it connect vehicle trajectories. And you can see this is going southbound, this is going northbound. And you notice going northbound, everybody stopped here. So going southbound looks pretty good. There are some stops. So the question is this considered good or bad? If we provide this performance index, then you can see the quality of signal timing or the performance index is rated at B+. And there's another parameter, it's called greens per red or green-red ratio. So this means on average, if you traverse the corridor, on average, you go through 4.9 green lights before you hit a red. So I want you to remember this number, okay, 4.9 for this corridor. Okay, so this is a very well-timed corridor. Okay, in Orange County, their county average is less than 2. So this is, I would say, is one of the best. But the question is why these stops occurred. Can we still do better than this one, even though it's already pretty good? And once I put the timing, the true time space diagram laid over with the with the trajectories, then you can see because there's really no green band here, the blue color, there's no green band. That's why every vehicle almost stopped there. Okay, so how can we quickly improve? So this is we think you just using whatever the existing cycle in the split, do a quick optimization. Now you can see this band, just you open the band. So this is how quickly, some locations you can just do a signal retiming without going through the volume counts. Now here is the trajectory after the retiming. You can see, again, the trajectories laid on top of the time space diagram. And you can tell the northbound is doing a lot better. And southbound did have some stops here. So I did this pretty much just in a couple of hours. If I had more time, I would move the offset of this one a little bit further back, pull it like 10 seconds back to avoid this stop. But I didn't have time to do that. But still, if you compare the before after, as I mentioned before, B+, now is A-. Okay, so translate into economic savings. So this timing, this is the PM peak, about 3 hours operation every day, is still like close to $500,000 saving. And you look at the bi-direction here, you can see the southbound direction is a negative. That means it's actually getting worse, but the major improvement occurred to the northbound. So this is just one of the case studies I have done. Now, the question is, how are the corridors that retimed through the TSO program are performing? So we do have an interactive map. Maybe I have time to show you. So this is the interactive map here. Okay, so you can see these are the corridors that retimed in fiscal year 2024. So if you want to look at this index, and you can also just look at which time period. I usually start with midday because midday tells me, because midday usually is not congested. And if the performance is still not good, that's most likely is because of the signal timing. So you look at the index, okay? Then you look at the green-red ratio. Okay, so remember the green-red ratio, the corridor on Imperial Highway, I told you, is 4.9. But in this case, the majority is less than 3. There are a couple good ones here, like this one is 5. So this is Main Street, and the other ones, so it's mostly less than 2. And then if you look at the PM, of course, it's going to be worse because PM in general is more congested. Okay, so let me go back to the presentation here. So this is just to show some of the corridors. This is again midday on Litchfield Road, and these are the performance index. This is the green-red ratio. You can see it's less than 2. And these are the trajectories from connected vehicles. You can see where they stopped. Okay, so there's no oversaturation, but there are still a lot of stops. This is another corridor on Bethany. Hopefully I say that correctly. These are the index. This is the green-red ratio. And you can see there's no oversaturated intersections, but there's still a lot of stops. Okay. Well, this is the one on the AM peak on Camelback Road. You can tell this is going eastbound. Eastbound definitely is the peak direction. Westbound is the off-peak direction. There are a lot of bottleneck intersections going eastbound. When I say bottleneck or oversaturated condition means you can see the vehicles cannot go through in one cycle. So at this intersection, this vehicle has to wait for like 3 cycles in order to make it through. So there are a lot of bottlenecks, okay? Of course, it's going to affect the performance, but the off-peak direction, there's no overcapacity, except there's one here. See, this one did take 2 cycles to go through, but most of them can go through in 1 cycle. That means it's not oversaturated. But because of the high number of stops, that's why the performance is still not good, okay? And then I look at the signal timing. This is, in the report, I found this signal timing. They did use the VSync to collect the travel runs. You can see this direction. They provide the whole band, the entire green band to this peak direction. But because of the oversaturation, it's not really being used. Right, you can see you couldn't really use the band. You have to go through in several cycles in order to go through. And versus the other direction, not oversaturated, you still make a lot of stops. So this is where I see, for doing signal timing, you cannot just run the model, okay, put it on. It needs a lot of fine-tuning, engineering judgment. Well, the performance is not satisfactory, but I do see there are reasons behind this. One of the things I want to talk about is the protect permitted left turn. I realized that's significantly used in Arizona. So I'm very familiar with Tucson. So Tucson, most of the intersections, they have the 5-section protect permitted left turn, and they have a fixed facing sequence. Left turn is always lagging. So in the Phoenix area, I didn't realize, because I look at the signal timing the consultant did, most of the arterials, their signal facing sequence is fixed. It's always left turn leading. So there's no lead lag. What I want to show you here is I just pick up 2 arterials. This is in City of Phoenix. So I have their signal timing. And so I want to show you. So this is one of them. I'm opening the midday timing plan. You can see that these are the left turns. You can see the left turns are all leading, okay? So all the left turns are leading. So if we run the optimization, and we lock the facing sequence. So that means don't change the sequence. So this is what you get. So you only get, you look at the bottom, there are 2-second green band, that very narrow green band. But if we can get rid of this restriction, allow facing sequence to change to be lead lag, now you get 22 seconds. It's 10 times bigger than when you have a fixed sequence. The second one is the same thing. So opening the midday timing plan, you can see the left turns are all leading there. Okay, if we run an optimization, okay, lock the sequence, and this is what you get. You can see there, you get 5 seconds in both directions. But you will take out this restriction. So this is what you get. Now it's 25 seconds, still 5 times of what you had with the fixed facing sequence. So what I want to say here is that if you really want to improve the corridor performance coordination, somehow you need to find a way to be able to change the sequence. So if you have a lot of permitted left turn, changing to flashing yellow arrow is one way of doing it. But I know it takes a lot of effort. So you may get a lot of resistance from the citizens. Like Tucson, we did try, because I told them, if you don't change the sequence, you probably cannot really do much with improving the corridor performance. But the citizens are so used to lagging left turns. So if you change the sequence, everybody complains. So I know that you are going to face these challenges, but I do just want to point out how important facing sequence is to signal timing. So with that, I think I'm done with what I want to tell the group. I'll be really happy to answer any questions if you have.
Are there any questions or comments? Mohammed?
Yes, my question is related to the green, or you call it GPR, and then you have the grading criteria, D+, D-. What determines that? What level of GPR, green per red, I believe that's what it means. Can you explain that, please?
Okay, green per red. Let's say if the number is 3, that means on average you go through 3 green lights before making one stop. You hit a red light. That's why it's called green-red ratio. So this directly comes from the trajectories, from the field travel runs, right? So that's directly from there. Then your question about the quality index, the D, D, A, B, C. How do we determine what is A, what is B, what is C, what is D? So we do have a methodology for that. It's based on a combination of stop and also travel time, and also some other parameters like cycle length, spacing. So if you have a very short spacing, naturally, signal timing will be more challenging. So you probably won't get a very good travel run. But if your spacing is large, so it's a lot easier to achieve a better performance. So it's a combination of these performance measures to come up with that letter grade. We did a research for Nevada Department of Transportation, and we have a comprehensive research report to document our methodology.
Yeah,
a good question.
I would, if there is a place where I can read about it, it will be very helpful, because it will also tie to your leading left and lagging left problem that you mentioned. So there should be two different criterias for measuring corridors with the green leading and lagging green left turns, and that will give a better classification or understanding of the problem of optimizing the corridors of different variations.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Hi, Dr. Tian. I was wondering, when you're doing the grading and you're looking at the trajectories, are you taking into account the speed of the vehicles between intersections?
The speed, you said?
Yeah, like are we trying to account for vehicles traveling at or near the speed limit, or are we looking at vehicles going?
Yeah, so if you yes, when I say travel time, in fact, we look at the average speed. So you go through a corridor, let's say 5 miles. So you get the travel time, then you calculate the average speed. Also, there's a speed limit, right? So speed limit, let's say speed limit is 45, and your average speed is 30. So we look at the ratio. So 30 over 45, there's a ratio. Based on that ratio, we provide a score for the speed. And we also look at the number of stops, because stop is also important. You made this many stops, and stops, there are short stops, then there's long stops. So we convert that into, we call it the standard stop. Then you look at how many signals. Okay, you got 10 signals, you made 2 stops, so that's 20%. And then based on that one, we gave a score. So it does consider speed, and yeah, those.
I just had one comment on, I'll say one thing about that. That's not what I was going to comment on, but when we use it and when you're driving it, it does tell you what speed you should be traveling at. So you know, oh, I'm going this fast, oh, it's going to turn green in this amount of time at the speed that I'm traveling, you know, or this projected speed that you should be traveling to hit those offsets the way that they're programmed or whatever. But anyways, we like it a lot. But obviously, you know, the question that always comes up is, yes, you show an improvement, like in a lot of the scenarios, you're showing north-south, but you don't, you know, ever show the increased delay that it may cause in, you know, the opposing directions. Is there any improvement coming with the software that's going to show some level of maybe cross coordination and show maybe the negative impacts for the opposing movements, you know, put it that way, I guess?
Okay. So I mentioned the cycle length, right? So currently the performance is showing for this corridor. So it's a good question. Your comment is, what's the impact on the side street? So we cannot easily gather the data from the side street, but we do have that cycle length as a factor. So if we use a very long cycle in order to achieve a better main street performance, so we actually deduct some points. So that kind of take into consideration of the impact on the side street. But eventually, here I'm showing you is only few corridors, but I always advocate you should have a region-wide. So which we could do that easily because the data covers the entire region. So you have all your corridors, whether north-south or east-west. You look at the overall performance. Then you will have an idea. You know, this corridor north-south getting better. What happened to the east-west? So you can still kind of get a sense what's the impact on the other corridors. Definitely, when you work on signal timing, you cannot totally ignore the side street, the crossing corridors. So definitely, I don't want to advocate that in order to achieve a main street performance, good performance, you would allocate very little green time to the side street. That's not a good way of doing signal timing.
Yeah. Are there any improvements coming, like with the software, that might further consider? The only reason I'm bringing it up is because I can show, yes, we made an improvement. We have an A+ rating north-south, but then when we look at the INRIX software, we have a C, as an example, because it's more balancing and going, how's the overall intersection, functioning? What's its level of service of the overall, it's a major intersection. So it's sometimes justified that, well, you have an A in this direction, but in this direction, it's a D. So hell, we're averaging it out down here to like a C or something. So that's my only comment. I hope something's coming someday because I love it. And I hope that, I don't expect you to answer it if there's nothing on the horizon, but if there is, I'm excited to see it.
What there is not part of WaveSync. So even the trajectories, we use another software. It's not WaveSync. We extract from another software and then plot it on WaveSync. So that software we call the STEP. So we do have that function. We can actually pull out the side street, look at the intersection overall delay, just like INRIX. So we do have that function, but it needs a separate data processing.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'd be interested if Mag wants to at least look at that and see what the difference is. That'd be interesting to me.
Thanks, Mike. Kevin, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I'm new to this software, but when I was looking at the time-space diagram for the left turn phasing sequencing, when you changed it, from lag to lead and vice versa, I was just wondering, does that have the capability to also, look at third car logic for left turns and how that might help progression with that?
I didn't get the second part. The left turn logic. What do you mean left turn logic?
Yeah, so the third car left turn logic. So basically, if it's not going to be, if there's only 2 cars or less, it'll stay as a permissive instead of, initiating the protected lag or lead, during that phasing. Is the software able to look at that to see how that would help with progression?
Okay. So the phasing sequence, when I say the phasing sequence, I'm really talking about lead lag. So you allow one left turn leading, the other left turn lagging. I think what you're talking about is through the detection whether you should bring the left turn phase or not, right? So that is not a sequence issue. So whether you bring the left turn on or not, so your sequence is still fixed. So if it's a protected permitted 5-section head, you either run the left turns leading, both left turns leading or both left turns lagging. So you cannot really switch to lead lag unless you run a flashing yellow arrow.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you, Tian. David, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Number 6, Traffic Signal Optimization Program Evaluation. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by Yang Xiaopeng, MAG Senior Modeler, and Wang Zhang, MAG Transportation Data Manager.
Thank you, Chair and members of the MAG IDs Committee. I'm here actually serving as understudy guide to Justin Beruma, who had an emergency today, couldn't be here to deliver the presentation. This is essentially their project, and we work with Texas Transportation and Texas A&M Transport Institute, TTI, last year in 2025, really take a deep dive of existing MAG TSOP traffic signal optimization program and try to see what's the evolving needs of this program from the regional perspective and how can we potentially obtain some recommendations guiding us into the future to meet our evolving needs. So this presentation here is to provide with the committee of this evaluation in a summary mode. So continue to talk about the TSOP, as Dr. Chen has already pointed out in the last talk. Traffic signal optimization program really goes a long way back to the 2004. So MAC has been doing that for more than 2 decades. And the main goal of this program is to provide the consultant support to our member agencies in traffic signal retiming efforts, and also to assist our agencies with their data connection needs, and to run the before and after evaluation with the signal retiming effort sitting in between, and potentially to support the cross-jurisdiction function and coordination, as our region has so many long arterial corridors runs through multiple agencies. And then this program is operated and formatted in an annual call for project process. As I mentioned, starting from 2004, this program has retimed over 1,500 intersections across more than 150 projects. But I would also like to kind of throw some other interesting facts with our region. So our region has more than 4,000 signals right now, and as our region continue to grow, we expect this number to increase as well. And you may not realize, as great as a freeway system we have been enjoying in the region, actually more than half of the VMT in the region travels on arterial, which means they must go through the signals for more than half of their travel. And then, and based on some other data sets, we know, for example, in 2025, on average basis, a traveler need to spend almost 30 seconds of the extra delay when they try to go through one particular major to major intersections. So it is substantially a program try to facilitate or try to optimize the performance at a signal level to potentially improve the travel speed of the arterial network, or reduce the delay of the traveler when they go through those signal timings along the corridors. So we have done so many things addressing, for example, freeway bottlenecks. But when you talk about the traffic condition on the arterial network, signals intersection essentially the most important factors driving up the bottlenecks of your travel on the arterial network. Okay, so the current TSR project life cycle pretty much doesn't change much over the last 2 decades. So it's a pretty lengthy process that take almost 30 months to finish. I'm not going to go through all the steps, but I believe a majority of them who have been participant to this program, you are pretty familiar with that. That's how it takes to finish. But why we're doing the evaluation? Because we want to be better, right? And this program has kind of remained unchanged for the last 20 years. But over the last 2 decades, like Dr. Tian pointed out, and also MAC has been actively pursuing, is that there are so many new emerging mobility data sets become available. We are transitioning, our work, not only for the TSA, but also for other transportation-related studies, from the short-term to the continuous, from the manual to automatic, from the aggregated to disaggregated, and more importantly, from modeling your system to measuring your system, kind of enhance our knowledge about, based on the, according to the help from those new mobility data sets to enhance our knowledge of our transportation systems. And also, we noticed that our member agencies have evolving and different needs and expectations of the TSA programs. And for example, they're all interested in those performance-based decision-making process. And we're also looking for, everybody's looking for even stronger regional coordinations. So those are the points that we gathered when we decided to do this evaluation with TTI. Why we take a hard look on the TSUB is to try to address those needs. So specifically, this assessment scope has been laid out into multiple layers. First of all, we document existing framework, like I already mentioned, and then we actually go out to the peer agency around the nation just to find out whether they have similar program or not, how they've been trying to tackling the arterial retiming efforts. So I'll get to that in a minute. And more importantly, we actually reach out to our member agencies folks around the table and also online, try to do a survey and interview with you all, get to understand a little better from your perspective. How do you think current TSAP is being handled and how the future picture should look like? And then we actually took a step back, look at the historic TSAP project have been done using the current or the old, data and methodologies. And we try to tackle the new emerging data sets and the new methodology on top of that, and try to rerun those analyses to see if we see some tangible improvements of the TSAP project that has been handled. Obviously, reviewing the new mobility data sets is really important piece of this assessment. And eventually, all the work leads to a development with the long-term and short-term recommendations, which we will get more details in the second half of this presentation as delivered by my colleague Yong Zhao. So what about the peer agencies around the country? We actually went out, tried to talk to 12 of the comparable regions, and we get different type of the information back. And there is not exactly equivalent program to MAC TSAP program, as we find out when we talk to our member peer agencies around the country. But overall, I think the summary of that, I'm not going to read through all of them, is that lots of people doing consultant-led corridor retiming programs around the country, and they seems like target on the specific facilities, whether on the corridor or region-wide. And also there's a good trends of folks transitioning from individual location to corridor, from the short-term one-time tweak to the ongoing operations. Those are the trend we notice that we gain by talking to our peer agencies. So we talk about that. I think the evolving mobility data sets that has been echoed by our findings by talking to our peer agencies around the country. We are aware of there is a new source of data available. There is a new performance-based platform developed based on the new data source can really come in to help to make this program more efficient. Because of the scaled up the data availability, I think the overall national trend is people started to put focus more on the network scale rather than corridor scale, like Mr. Mike Martin mentioned, because we have more insight, more knowledge about our existing conditions, we're able to look at the particular TSAP effect, not only for one direction or on the corridor level, but also look at the effect to the side streets, to the crossing, other crossing major arterials, etc., etc. More from a higher perspective to look at the whole impact to the regional scale. So not going to get through all of them. And I think, another thing is, consultants definitely has been heavily involved, not only in our program here at this region, but also across other regions in the country. Okay, on top of that, I think this is even more valuable to us. We wanted to know how you all think, of MAC TSAP program. So that's why we conduct a survey and follow up with certain agencies to do an in-person interview. So we received in last year response from 18 of the member agencies through our survey, and we essentially conduct the interview with 6 of them, getting to find out, ask a more targeted question about the TSAP. So majority of the response received happened to be the user of the TSAP in the last 3 years, and the feedback also kind of split in terms of maintaining current program or updating or refining the program structures. Particularly, we received all positive support from agencies who had recently participated in the TSAP program. They all feel like to recommend the further refinement to the current TSAP program. So what really the components that our member agencies value in the TSAP program? They really think the traffic counts data connection that we provided through the program help them with their work. They appreciate this before and after performance analysis to give them those kind of data-driven, results and measurements of the corridor's performance. And of course, once the signal gets returned, hopefully we're expecting improvement in reducing the traveler delay. And then we also appreciate the training and the modeling perspective that provided through MAC on, for example, synchro modeling and the Wayzing optimizations. So, but we also recognize there are barriers and challenges ahead of us. So, not going to go through all of them, but the first tier is less prioritized, and the last tier is most prioritized. So I think I'm going to just hit the last point on this screen, which is the majority of the response we receive recognize the limited internal staff capacities, especially to our smaller agencies. And so they're looking for help and facilitation from MAC to kind of lead the TISA project to help them improve arterial traffic management. Once again, we touch on the consultant experience. We feel like from the feedback we receive from member agencies, there's a little bit inconsistent consultant performance noted. So that's where we will try to address in our future TISA program. How do we do more data-driven, more streamlined project selections? For example, we need the region-wide data coverages. We need more information available to help us prioritize the project and evaluate the project. And the timeline is pretty long. And how can we compact, make it a little bit compact and to be able to capitalize the effect of this program with a shorter amount of the duration is being recognized by our member agencies. And then what exactly is MAC's role to the TSOP? I think they all think MAC should be really serving as a regional technical resource and a data hub, providing those centralized information to help with our agency needs. And there's also a maturity option really interesting in expanding the data access and analytics support regarding the TSOP. So I think with that, I will transition to Yongzhao to continue on the data and the evaluation part.
Thank you, Wang. As part of our evaluation of MAC's TSOP, we also researched various data sources and the evaluation of the TSOP projects. Reliable data and well-defined performance measures are critical for evaluating TSOP project. In the past, singular retiming projects relied on segment counts, turning movement counts, and probe data, such as in-rig speed data. These sources provide the short-term insights into traffic volumes and travel time performance. However, if we include the cross-site data and collective vehicle data into our evaluation, we can significantly enhance the evaluation process, making it more comprehensive, robust, more reliable, and truly data-driven. Previous TSOP projects mainly relied on corridor-level measures, the measures of effectiveness and measures of reliability. With the expanded data availability, our evaluation team developed a performance framework, including several key metrics, including the travel time, control delay, number of stops, and interval. Each of the metrics can be evaluated individually or be integrated into a broader performance framework. To support this, we also explored different kinds of the data tools, such as the in-rig roadway analytics, in-rig singular analytics, and some other similar tools. We also reviewed some of the historical TSOP projects to better understand how we can use these different kinds of tools to strengthen the evaluation practice. Here are the examples. On the left, it shows the typical corridor level before and after evaluation using the in-rig speed. So you can see the most part of past TESOL projects use the in-rig speed data to do the comparison for the effectiveness and reliability. Some of the previous projects also used Synchro. However, it is the estimates from the model instead of a real measurements. On the right, it shows the example how we use the in-rig signal analytics to do the evaluation. It not only can evaluate the performance and the corridor level, but also the intersection level. It can give us the performance with any user-defined time ranges, with more sample sizes and or more stronger reliability. More importantly, it can measure the control delay using the observed collect vehicle data, which is hard to do in the previous using the traditional data source and tools. Based on our peer agency review, surveys, interviews, and our evaluation of different data sources and the evaluation of the projects, we developed several recommendations. We developed 7 short-term recommendations, which will strengthen MAC's TESOL into a performance-based, data-driven, and regional coordinated framework. Next, I will introduce each of the short-term recommendations. The first short-term recommendation is refine program structure. We recommend to streamline the approval process. We also require MAC management to review and approve the project, to spread the project across the entire fiscal year to balance the workload and data collection. The second short-term recommendation is enhance consultant selection process. We recommend to revising consultant selection procedures, prioritizing the consultants with local experience and proven TESOL performance. We also want to include the agency feedback when select these consultants. The third recommendation is improve inter-agency coordination. We want to facilitate more structured collaboration among agencies, especially for multi-jurisdiction corridor projects. We want to determine a shared standards for signal phasing, pedestrian timing, and coordination. Want to improve or more joint projects and zone-based planning projects, and conducting more stronger weighting to improve the regional continuity and knowledge exchange. The first recommendation is for mandatory evaluation and transparency. We recommend standardizing the before and after evaluation and make the evaluation mandatory and transparent. For example, we publish online. We also want to report the MAC Policy Committee on a yearly basis to make these operational and financial benefits. The fifth recommendation is to leverage third-party data to reduce the manual travel time to monitor the project. We want to conduct more robust before and after analysis to include these different kinds of the measurements and also provide the training and technical support for the previous platforms and all some new platform we would like to support. The sixth recommendation is provide standardized project technical memo templates. We want to have a concise technical memo templates. These templates should focus on key outcomes, method knowledge, and also the lessons we learned. This will reduce a lot of administrative burden and also support the regional knowledge sharing. The last TESOL short-term recommendation we have is to provide the knowledge transfer debriefs and technical support. MAC should continue to leverage the internal experts and also provide the knowledge transfer with consultants to provide the technical support and strengthen a long-term regional capacity. Except the 7 short-term recommendations, we also have some long-term recommendations. I will not go through each of these parts because these long-term recommendations will require more planning, development, structural changes from the implementing multi-year priority-based program cycle to the integrated TSOP with TSMO strategy plan and equipment upgrades. With these changes, Max TSOP could evolve into a regional arterial operation and multi-year framework supported by advanced data tools, regional benchmarking, and integrated with broader TSMO goals. Our evaluation shows that Max TSOP is highly valued by member agencies, particularly for its technical support. We really appreciate each member agency cooperation during the whole process. However, we understand this program needs to be evolved. By integrating performance screening, collect vehicle data, and stronger regional standards, TSOP can better meet the future regional needs. The short-term and long-term recommendation provide us a clear roadmap to update the program. We will try our best to update this program and we'll update you guys in the future. This concludes our presentation today. We are happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Youngzhang and Wang. Does anybody have any questions?
Not a question, but just a statement is I am all in favor of like, you know, coordination along our borders and everything else, but because we all have different philosophies, if we were to ever try to go that way, you know, a little bit further, there would probably have to be a more of a whatever that area of the region is, you know, study and go, this is why we should do this and this is why. To try to convince one or the other, it's not always easy. And you're like, well, we're running a 132nd line, you know, cycle. Like, well, we're running a 96. Well, we're running, you know, it's like, and you have those all around you. So I do think that if that's the case and we really want to try to make that happen, there will probably have to be more money for evaluating what's better for that portion of the region and trying to get everyone on board collectively, which is not going to be easy, if even possible. But
Agreed. Yeah, those conversations sometimes can get a little complicated. And I think being able to accommodate the program funding to help facilitate those conversations through whatever means is definitely something we should be looking into. Great. Thanks, Mike. Anybody else? Okay, great. Thank you again. And we'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is the City of Tempe Central-Based Emergency Vehicle Preemption System Pilot. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by Shu Yaohang, the MAG Data Application Manager. Shu Yao?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of MAG ITS Committee. Glad to be back after a few years to present to you our lessons learned from another emerging technology pilot projects for ITS applications. Many of you in this room have participated in that programs or have heard about that from my previous presentation, maybe a few years ago. But for those of you who don't know, a little bit historical context here that back in 2018-ish, MAG established emerging technology field pilots on call to conduct limited scale pilot tests of emerging technologies in the field with our member agency partners. That is not only ITS, but beyond that, including safety, planning, data, and modelings. And some of the result of those pilots, you can actually have seen that in person. For example, my colleague Wang Zhang previously presented to this committee about the use of connected vehicle data in our data programs. And that was a pilot many, many years ago when we are the first in the country to try that data source. And it has become a mainstream activities we do in MAG here. So the program, the on-call was very successful. We got a lot of interest to kickstart that efforts because back then it was very different. In 2019, 2018, we were still developing the RTP momentum, which later become the basis for 479. But we heard from our elected officials that we need to prepare in the long run for transportation technologies that is coming in the future, but we may not know what they are now. So to kickstart that effort, that's why we established the pilot programs to understand a bit more about what's out there, right? The pros and cons of different technologies, what's promising, what's coming up, and what's just a hype. And we have a second on-call in 2022 to continue that efforts. And this project is one of the, I think, one of the last two remaining pilot projects from that on-call. And obviously, a lot has changed. Fast forward to now, right? We have 479 passed secure voters approval. Now we have dedicated funding sources for emerging tech. And you will see we are moving away from doing pilots rather than doing the actual planning based on the secure funding. And you have heard from David in last month that now the ITS related emerging tech will be planned under the TISMO programs, obviously, going forward. So still, we want to report to you back about the pilots that will have been done, and this is one of them. So going back to these projects, it's a central-based EVP system pilot. We will work with City of Tempe, Ali's team on these projects. Appreciate a lot for Ali, your help and your team's help from bringing this project to us to see it through into implementations and eventually for evaluations. It's a 2-year long process. Without your support, we wouldn't be able to do this. So I will be presenting, but Ali, feel free to chime in anytime whenever you feel like it. So speaking to a group of ITS engineers, I probably don't need to talk about too much about what is EVP. Essentially, it interrupts the normal traffic signal timing to provide green lights to emergency vehicle responding to a call while providing red lights to the completing approaches. It obviously helps reduce the response time for emergency vehicles and also decrease the chance of collisions at those intersections, eventually saving lives and costs. Especially interesting to MAC as a regional agency is that EVP systems tend to be implemented by agency in different ways, right? Different hardwares, different technologies, even different coding patterns for those using Opticoms. So there's a role that MAC can help facilitate to coordinate those approaches in the region here. And that's why this pilot technology is very interesting to us. But before that, the most common technology out there for EVP now, as far as I know, is optical-based EVP. Essentially, you have an infrared receiver installed at each approach of intersections. And you also have an emitter installed at emergency vehicles. So when the emergency vehicle responding to a call approaching intersection, it will beam the infrared lights to activate that EVP call, as shown on the left-hand side here. And the central or AVL-based EVP we are piloting in this project is shown on the right-hand side here. But essentially, you no longer need to have specialized hardware installed at intersection. Instead, you realize on the automatic vehicle locator, AVL, who is already reporting where emergency vehicles are and what's their status to the dispatch centers. And because you know where they are, you can set up geofence at intersections to trigger the EVP call if your TMC or TOC has communications to your signals. And for this particular pilot project, this is the data flow charts we have. It looks very similar to the conceptual diagrams in the previous slide, so I won't go into too much detail here. One thing we do a bit different in this project is instead of integrating with the existing AVL, due to the budget and time constraint, we opt to buy a transponder from Hazard Alert to install in the piloted emergency vehicles. So also in this case, the central-based EVP technology provider for our case is called Light, LYT. They have different solutions, but for EVP, the product is called Light.emergency. And the Tempe TMC already has communications to the signals already, so we only need to install the vendor allows you to install a hardware or a virtual machine in your network to be the gateway between their cloud and your signal central softwares. So in this case, we install a virtual machine in one of our Tempe's workstations to work as that bridge between the AVL data and the signal EVP calls. And one bonus feature we actually got from this project, not originally intended to, is the Hazard Alert transponder actually is also able to send out alerts to traveling publics about emergency vehicle or emergency scene. So the screenshot shown here is when Hazard Alert send out emergency vehicle approaching alerts to those who are using Waze navigation apps. And the bottom left screenshots is some of the select Stellantis vehicles can also actually receive those alerts in the infotainment system in the vehicles. So we also get to try that feature as well in these pilot projects. A very brief summary of the overall scope of these projects. We have a total of 23 intersections as shown on the map here. We have a phased approach to gradually increase the number of intersections, in part because it's a new technology, a new software, right? We want to take a baby step to plug it into the system to make sure it's not doing anything unexpected. And also in part, when we started with the first 12 intersections in the first 2 quarters, we realized the actual events of EVP in those quarters, unfortunately, but also fortunately, it's not a lot, you know, and you need a lot of data to actually be able to do a meaningful before-after comparisons for evaluation purpose. So that's also why we're gradually including more and more intersections in these pilot projects. We have 6 emergency vehicles involved in this project from 4 different fire stations. As shown on table here, they involve different types of vehicles from the fleet that Tempe Fire Department and Rescue has. So very briefly, the EVP solution provider has its own dashboard showing the lifetime status of the signals involved. And also from the AVO data, we know the lifetime status of those fire vehicles, where they are, speed, light bar status, if they are responding to a scene or not, which is a condition if it will trigger EVP call or not. And as also byproducts of that, because it's also getting a sparse data from the central system in Tempe for those intersections, we get a very detailed view of those signal status as well in a lifetime. And from the HAS alerts side, it also has its own dashboard, but it's very similar, which only shows the AVL information. It also helps us generate reports about how many alerts actually were sent out to traveling publics. As shown on the table here, and the report here in the screenshots was pulled in the last, in earlier this year, so it's reflected the last month of 2025. And you will see it sent out 1,300 alerts to driver in that month alone. But if you look at the year to date, in this pilot projects, we sent out about 21,000 alerts actually 35,000 alerts through the 2-year pilot projects to traveling publics about the emergency vehicles. One thing I put a highlight here is actually the R2R stands for responder to responder alerts. In that month, actually, there was one responder to responder alert was sent out. And that is because I think City of Phoenix is also using HAS alerts in their emergency vehicle fleet. So they probably opt to equip with that flashing lights inside the vehicles. So when there's a 2 vehicle equipped with a central responder approaching to a certain intersections, they actually have a functionality to send out that responder to responder alerts to notify the other responder that, hey, there's actually another emergency vehicle approaching the same intersection as you. So be on the watch out for that. We didn't have that add-on in our pilot projects, but that's why the R2R alerts received is 0 for our pilot. This is only for our interface. So in the Phoenix side, I assume they probably have numbers here showing the alerts they received from the Tempe fleet installing this transponder in our pilot projects. Just I think an interesting side note to highlight here. So we conduct a pilot to evaluate the technologies, right? So at a high level, our evaluation methodology includes a 2-week on and 2-week off. I should note that the existing Opticon system is equipped in most of those intersections shown on our map earlier. So they remain always on through the pilot projects. We want them to be the backbone, just in case, you know, if this new technology doesn't work, we don't want to degrade the system performance in any way because of these pilot projects. And we also program the light EVP code on a separate channel from the existing Opticon. So that's why when we do evaluations, we can separate out the EVP code made from the Opticon versus light. As shown on the map here, this is our evaluation periods on and off, denoted by red and green colors. You will realize it's very noisy and not as continuous as we hope for. We initially planned for continuous, 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. But in reality, we run into different logistical issues that prevent us from doing that. For example, the grade 2 weeks in the middle of July, That's when we actually run into a storage disk allocation issue in a virtual machine that we didn't realize until the end of that. And due to the constraint of time we have to pivot and try to find comparable days together, still get that 2 weeks comparable day in different days of week. And luckily in that 2 months, the traffic condition itself is probably quite stable between those green and red days anyways. It's summer months. And the couple of blackout days on August is because the scheduling software they use to program this on and off day has glitched that we wasn't aware until it turned it off before we actually plan for. So just to want to explain why it looks very chaotic in that calendar there. But in terms of data source for evaluations, we pull in lots of information from the light system itself, which is getting data from AVL, but also the central system that Tempe has for signal timings. And we also, Tempe also help us pull the Opticon's central management system data as well for those Opticon specific data as for a comparison source. We look into a bunch of metrics here. I won't go into details. Next slide, I actually have the big table to show you what are all those metrics we look into. Essentially, in this table here, each row is one of the metrics. We have 3 columns here. The first one is off period, when we turn off the light system, but the Opticon is still on. The on period when both Opticon and light is on. And the full project period across that 2-year period. So just for reference, because if you remember in the previous slide, we turn on different intersection at different times, right? So it's a bit noisy for that full data period column there, but just to include that here for your reference. Some of the high-level findings I want to highlight here. First of all, if you look at in the on period, compare number of calls made by Opticon and light, you will see that lights reliably make much more EVP calls than the Opticon. And the third row there shows the number of intersection crossing, because from the light solution, we know the AVL traces of the vehicles and they are light bar status. So we know exactly how many crossing signals as cross intersection they cross when they are responding to an emergency. And you will see that the lights EVP call match that number exactly, meaning that for each of our emergency responses, when they cross intersection, they correctly send out the EVP calls. Secondly, we look into the number of protected intersection crossing between off and on period. Again, the only variable here is when the light system is off or on. And you will see the percentage and both in terms of percentage and number of calls, protected crossing, we got a much higher numbers when the light system is on in these pilot projects. The next highlighted column comparisons here is the average emergency vehicle speeds through intersections when they are responding to a call. And we see a small slight increase there as well. One thing that a little bit unexpected to us is the last highlighted cell here. So of all the 52 EVP calls that both light and EVP sent out to the controllers, only in 6 instances the light EVP call will receive actually before Opticon. We were initially thought that we will see a totally different pictures than what we see here, because if you know how the Opticon works, you need to set a certain range for the Opticons, right? But for lights, you essentially know where the vehicle is all the times. So we suspect there are multiple reasons here. First, the region has a pretty standard grid network across the most of the RTO network. So you have pretty good line of sight actually for the Opticon solution. So we don't really have any curvature of road in this pilot project. So there won't be too much cases that when the line of sight itself is an issue for Opticon. The other thing is when the system for the light is set up, they draw the geofence boundary for each intersection based on the speed limits, signal timing plan set up there. So there might be a difference in terms of setting of that geofence range than the Opticon range that has been set up. So we suspect there are multiple factors in play here. And just to conclude, the overall key takeaway we have for the project is overall we do see quantifiable improvements over existing solutions that we compare in these pilot projects. We also observe and kind of confirm a couple of qualitative improvements as well. First of all, The main issue we heard about the optical-based solution is the efforts and costs to install and maintain the hardwares, right? But for these particular technologies, for central-based EVP, you don't really have that. Especially if you rely on the existing AVL already installed in the vehicles, you actually don't even need to install actual transponder as well. And you are getting more additional data to evaluate the EVP performance, right? Rather than only rely on the signal controller log, now you have AVL data to see where emergency vehicle actually goes to, and then that helps you to evaluate the EVP performance rather than waiting for your fire departments to provide you feedback that, hey, they feel like at so-and-so intersection, it might not be working as intended. A couple of future notes for consideration here that we have a limited budget, so we kind of work backward to see how many intersections, how many vehicles we can accommodate for these pilot projects. In retrospect, we feel like to actually meaningfully evaluate this type of solution in a significant ways, you really need a network effect of enough signals and enough vehicles participating in the pilot projects. So that's definitely one of the considerations that we will recommend for future either deployments or future pilot projects. And also, most ideally, we are not using the technology to the full potential because we didn't actually integrate with the dispatch information. Otherwise, if you know where the emergency vehicle is actually responding to, the technology actually allows you to prepare the signal downstream ahead of time before you are even getting into a geofence. That's something, unfortunately, we didn't get to try in this pilot because we didn't get access to that dispatch records. But with that information, I believe the improvement will be even stronger in terms of emergency response time improvements. We also run into some installation and configuration issues for the transponder. Actually, a couple of our emergency vehicles transponder was initially installed inside the cabinet inside the vehicles. And if you know how the GPS signal works, that is not a very good way to receive the GPS signal. So we end up need to tweak that in the pilot projects to schedule a time to reinstall and all that. So those are also lessons learned for us. And we work with Tempe in this case, but obviously this technology can work within multiple agencies as well. So we didn't get to try that interagency interoperability in these pilot projects. And last but not least, it's probably very obvious to you that the prerequisite for this technology to work is that you have reliable communication to your intersections, right? And as we understand in the reality, that might not always be the case. You don't always have fiber to your intersection. Sometimes you rely on wireless hoop between a couple of intersections. So that might give you challenges in terms of getting that connectivity in a very consistent manner. So I definitely recommend whoever is considering these technologies, if you haven't done so already, if your signal central system didn't log the network disconnection already, you might want to look into that to understand how much uptime you actually talk to your signals, through a longer period of time. Because when you lost connection to your signals, the central-based EVP won't work, obviously, because you can't send that EVP call to the intersections. So with that concludes our presentation, and this is just for your information. And here are our contact information. I do want to make sure if Ellie has any additional comments you want to offer, but this is all we have for today.
I don't think I have anything. You guys covered everything that was pertinent, but I will say that it was the interface itself worked wonderfully. I really liked using that. I liked the way that it presented the data that we of historical status and things like that was really helpful for us for answering calls and answering people's questions when they said, why isn't this working? There is some communication that needs to happen between your IT department, if that's in play for you, if you're considering this. But yeah, it worked very well. We just don't have the reliable comms we need to rely on it solely.
Thank you, Xiao and Ellie. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, this is Marty. I think the key advantage of these is talking to other intersections and how they communicate. I know some systems will go ahead and broadcast on an approach to all three possible directions that the truck is going to go. And I think that kind of needs to be refined to, hey, we know we're leaving from point A and we're going to point B. Let's give them a route. And I know the fire department doesn't want to be told what to do, but if you know at least two of the directions that you could possibly go because of where the destination is, you can cut down on starting to preempt other signals that really aren't on the route. So I think that interplay is really key to what we're looking for. We're almost assuming it's going to have good communication between your units and the signal, but past that is really developing the network. So that's real key.
Yeah, Marty, let me follow up on that one as well. So, and Shuya, you did, mention that as an opportunity to make the system, more refined and robust, is that CAD feed. Marty, you and Simon both have the luxury of having your agencies being dispatched from your agency. Everybody else is dispatched out of Phoenix. So as we were going through our EVP deployment, that was a very big challenge that was really hard to overcome. And the decision that we landed on was very similar to the light decision, is to utilize just the AVL status of the vehicle. That was something that we could control. The worry is that while we could easily enter in an agreement with City of Phoenix to get that pipeline of information in a reliable and time effective manner, one update would break that. And then the system is, therefore unreliable or unusable. Again, like I said, Mesa, you guys dispatch yourselves. That's great. And then again, City of Phoenix, they have full control over that. Everybody else, we're kind of at the mercy of City of Phoenix Fire CAD. So that is a challenge. I would love to see a regional, kind of pathway to be able to get there, to be able to get that CAD data. Because again, to your point, having that data rich, information in the system would be extremely helpful. It's a really, really big hill to climb.
RADS currently collects CAD data from a couple different feeds. I don't know if it's high enough quality and quick enough to be used in this application, but we could certainly look into that if that was something everyone was interested in.
Yeah, I think we can definitely do it. But yeah, it's definitely got to have pretty specific information, and it's got to be second millisecond. You've got to be really, really low latency for it to be effective. Cannot be wrong. You're absolutely correct. Are there any other questions or comments?
I had one question, but it was actually more, I know when I was working over in Mesa, we did that pilot project with McDodd. Are you guys still planning on putting out, an advertisement to try to do something? I know we were talking about working towards that, but I don't know if you guys continued that or didn't.
Yes, it's definitely in the plan.
Okay.
I don't know the timing, or that'd be, I can find that out for you, but oh yeah.
Just curious, because I know I hadn't heard anyone else like necessarily. I mean, I know others have done a version of that, but anything along the line of what you were talking about, and if that was included, that's why. Just curious.
Right. Any other questions, comments? Okay, I have one more, and this one is directed. Actually, both of you guys can answer this, I believe. So the NTCIP command, when the request was received and it was issued, was that issued directly through the Light software, or did it get relayed through your ATMS?
I'm going to say it was through the Light software.
Yeah, I feel like so, but we can get back to you just to make sure.
I can't speak for sure, but that guy came and talked to me. I call him Lit, not Light, but I do like him. It was just a joke. But anyways, yeah, if I remember right, they wanted to put a box in with our central system, so it was coming through there, and from that point, it did go into the central system somehow.
Okay, so it did,
or at least use the network. Yeah.
wasn't through the ATS-MS software.
Okay.
But it was on the same server as the ATS.
So it's
Probably where she had the IT issue.
Okay.
Okay.
And the reason that I ask, and Ellie, I think you can appreciate this, is that, you know, our deployment does have that downstream ability that Marty mentioned, that essentially when intersection A, which is the intersection that the vehicle is approaching, all adjoining intersections will receive the free command to get that intersection ready, because, you know, and again, policy dictates a lot of how preemption operates. And, you know, in Surprise, we do not truncate, nor do we terminate PEDs, and we've got some pretty long PED clears. And that was really one of the big challenges with the optical system. So that being said, one of the concerns is that our heaviest corridor is also running adaptive. And I know you're familiar with the cadence, you know, the way that it operates, and where our concern was if the NTCIP EVP command is not being issued through the ATMS and it's issuing a free command to a downstream intersection, the adaptive is also issuing commands to do certain things, and that conflict could potentially be there. So we wanted to have that single point of information to and from the controller, you know, it being that gateway to allow which command has priority. So just curious if there's been any discussion. Obviously, it doesn't sound like, I don't know if you guys are even still running your cadence deployment, but it doesn't sound like this pilot was interfacing with that.
It was actually. So
Oh, okay.
there's a chunk of that we specifically wanted to see that's running the cadence adaptive and also was running this light system. So the way that it worked out though, when the controller received the light call, it just treats it like any other preemption. So it overrides anything else that's going on. It did not though talk with downstream intersections
Okay.
to prep them.
Okay, yeah, and I wasn't so much concerned about intersection A that is receiving the preemption command. It's going to be the downstream and connected intersections that are receiving that free command, because at the same time as they're receiving the free command, they're getting the, hey, run this split plan to be in coordination. So, okay. Anything else from anybody? Okay, great. Thank you much for both of you guys again. We will move on to the next agenda item, which is number 8, the request for future agenda items. Are there any requests from the membership for an item on a future agenda? Hearing none, the next agenda item is comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from the membership? I will let those online run through. I don't know if we do a roll call or just kind of. Yeah, if anybody online has anything to share, go ahead and raise your hand rather than just going through for the sake of time. I'm not seeing any hands online. I will open up the opportunity for those in the room to share. Marty?
All right, the city of Mesa is, we're working on developing what we call smart crossings. These are trail crossings across our arterials that are signalized. And we're experimenting right now with a LiDAR system. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to differentiate between pedestrian crossings and wheeled vehicles, and being able to assign different clearance times. And as part of that, we're also looking to have a fail-safe to actually have a zone over the crosswalk. So if anybody's still on the crosswalk before or after that clearance time is ended, that it will extend the crossing time. So we're looking at that. We're trying to find other agencies that may have dabbled in this kind of stuff, but it's really going to be advantageous to the motorists that they don't have to wait for a pedestrian clearance time when a bicycle crosses in 6 seconds. So we're looking to kind of speed that up, make it more efficient, and also respond quicker to the pedestrians or the vulnerable users as they approach. It also has fail-safe so that if you enter the zone, if you're just crossing the path on the sidewalk, it'll detect you, and then non-invasive detection, and then drop the call when you exit the zone. So you get people that can enter and exit and not change the signal. We also it will have to have an audible message so that people know that they're actually being detected, and it'll give them separate indications. Yes, please observe the bicycle indication, or please observe the pedestrian indication, something like that. So we're seeing what we can do to just kind of make those more efficiently. I came into the city and they've already decided not to use like a hawk that you could actually, once somebody crosses, you can then cross. But we're looking to make it very efficient. So this is just we've got one pilot project underway right now, and it's just sitting in the background of a push button system. And we have CCTV at that same location. So we're able to observe. So we're going to test things like somebody shows up on a bicycle, gets indicated as a bicycle, and then hops off and walks across the intersection. So it's, hey, did you figure that out? If you didn't figure it out, did it extend that time because the crosswalk was still occupied? So it's just, we're excited, totally excited about it. And we're trying to get more companies to buy into doing pilot projects in for our crossings.
Thanks, Marty.
Thanks.
Joe?
Yeah, the Maricopa County Connected Vehicle Acceleration Zone project is hosting a public outreach event on April 11th. It's a Saturday as part of the Arizona Commerce Authority's AZ Tech Week. So it's open to the public. So invite all members of the ITS committee and MAG in general and the general public to come out. It'll be hosted at the Maricopa County Highway Operations Building. We'll have a demonstration, a little bit of information about the project. So again, April 11th, 10 a.m. to noon, I believe.
Great. Thanks, Joe. Anybody else?
Just briefly, if you know anybody, we're hiring another analyst because Brian Mercer had retired. And we are hiring another fiber specialist if you know anybody that wants to do that.
Thanks, Mike. Last call. All right, I've got nothing. So on with that.
And a traffic engineer at some point.
No, you can't. You already said enough. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move to adjournment. The next meeting of the Intelligent Transportation Systems Committee will be on Wednesday, April 8th, to accommodate the ITA AMSA show. Please note that for the April meeting only, the meeting will be room will be changed to the Choya room. And with no further business, today's meeting is adjourned. Thank you.